students to question everything around them and develop the skills of discussion, debating, and decision making. Ma'am has received the Global Teachers Award in 2018, the Gem of India Award in 2019, and the Shiksha Ratan Award in 2021 for her commendable contribution to the field of education. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Devshri, and everyone on this team.
I would now like to invite the members of the international press to proceed with the press conference.
Okay, can we start with Gia?
Good evening, everyone. Can I start with the questions, Chair?
Sure.
My first question is for China, delegate of China.
Yes.
Delegate of China, as we know, China has been accused of committing mass genocide and crimes against human rights against Uyghur Muslims and other such minorities. They were raped and assaulted by your country's military men. And when these women went to court to file a case, they were not even addressed. Why, according to you, has this incident taken place? And what are the steps your government is taking to overcome such situations?
Member of the press, the Chinese parliament bestows its 100% faith in the Chinese military. The Uyghur Muslims in the re-educational camps have not been assaulted or raped, and even cases of physical restraints, if they were shown, they were only for the security of the Chinese citizens.
Need to follow up?
Go.
One of the Chinese local newspaper had published this report of women, not only the women who were raped and assaulted in the re-educational camps, and the men, the Uyghur Muslims, the men of the Uyghur Muslims, Muslim community, they were being spat on in public in front of the public. What is your opinion on this, or what is your say on this?
Not every local newspaper is trusted by the Chinese parliament. It is basically the freedom of speech and expression that the press is violating. The Chinese parliament, as said before in committee, and now the delegate is saying that we deny any accusations that you hold towards China, towards racism or racial discrimination or gender inequalities. I hope that answers your question.
Free to follow up? Okay, never mind. Yeah, thank you so much, Delegate of China.
Thank you, member.
My second question is for Delegate of Japan. Delegate of Japan.
The delegate of Japan is not present currently. You can move
on. Okay, then I'll go with Delegate of USA.
Yes.
My question for you is, racism in the United States comprises negativity and views on race or ethnicity which are related to each other. They are held by various people in groups of United States and have been reflected in discriminatory laws, practices, and actions at various times in the history of United States against racial or ethnic groups. Through American history, white Americans have generally enjoyed legally or socially sanctioned privileges and rights, which have been denied to members of various ethnic or minority groups at various times. What, according to you, are the steps which should be taken by the government we can say, just a second, to promote equality in the people? And what is your opinion?
So I think the history is history, and we have come up with many policies to defend ourselves. And the thing is, we are going to, and we will try our best to promote multiculturalism in education of our children, and teach them that racism was not great, and it was performed by some of our citizens in the olden days, and we are not proud of it. We promise the world that we will improve on our policies and regulations, rules and regulations to promote multiculturalism and less racism. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have delegate of Japan? One last time, can the EB member check?
No, we don't have.
Okay, my next question is for, just a second, delegate of India. Do we have any delegate of India?
Yep.
Yes, we have. Please carry on.
Delegate of India, as you are aware of the Russian and Ukraine war, having close foreign policies with both the nations, whose stand would you take and why? The reason of the stand?
See, I would like to help Ukraine because our India and Ukraine trade relation has been developed on the basis of long-standing friendship, as we all know, between the two countries. Like on the 1992, the treaty on friendship and cooperation was signed between India and Ukraine, which provided a major boost to India and Ukraine trade relations.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, delegate of India. The last question is for delegate of Denmark. Actually, no, wait, not delegate of Denmark. The delegate of Japan is not present, so I had prepared a question for the delegate. It's all right. Thank you so much. Jeff?
Right. Granted.
I don't need a brief for follow-up. Actually, I prepared a question for Japan, but as Japan is not present, I would like to put down my foot. I'm done.
Right.
I am
Noted.
over with
You wanted Japan for which committee?
committee UNGA.
Okay, no, it's not that. It's fine.
That's fine. Thank you, Gia. Next, we'll have the journalist of WTO. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So, do we have the delegate of Egypt over here?
Yes, we do.
Delegate, the country's primary Islamic advisory body issued a religious decree which classified the Bitcoin transactions as haram, which is something prohibited under the Islamic law. So, with such restrictions, how does the delegate's nation plan to reach out to its natives with a legal framework that backs the procedure?
I'm extremely sorry. Could you repeat the last part?
Yeah. So, with such restrictions, how does the delegate's nation plan to reach out to its natives with a legal framework that backs the procedure?
Currently, the country of Egypt is planning and working on a few drafts that would make it so that cryptocurrency would only be accessible to people with licenses. These licenses will only be handed out to trusted people, and I hope that satisfies you.
Next, do we have the delegate of India?
Yes.
Okay. So delegate, according to the to one of the cases of a very country, which is Internet and Mobile Associations of India versus the Reserve Bank of India Judgment 2020, there were complaints and reports submitted by the traders of their violation to right to privacy with the use of cryptocurrency. So what legal steps did the Republic take in order to protect the fundamental rights of its citizens ultimately under Article 21 of the Constitution?
Till now in India, there are no some legal laws about crypto, but the government is trying to trace the illegal sources from which the coins have been mined. For example, those coins or the other e-currency or the cryptocurrency could be used for other illegal activities like ter- 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 terrorist terrorist activities or drug smuggling, etc. So the government is trying to trace them, but it is difficult. They are also being used from the dark web, so it takes time, but we are implementing laws on
May I have a brief follow-up, ma'am?
Go ahead, delegate.
Right. So the delegate of India, one of the interviews taken yesterday, you highlighted the very fact that the Indian government does not plan to take any legal step because it can create a financial instability in a very country. So can you throw some light upon the steps or the measures that the country is planning to take?
like there are many steps, like we will be tracing them, and moreover these bitcoins will be issued under the government, but it would take time for making these laws.
Okay. Do we have the delegate of China next?
The delegate of China is present.
Okay, perfect. So, delegate, according to the latest reports of your country, they suggested that the crypto investors in China have lost like more than 3 billion in such scams that are known as rug pulls. So, how does the country plans to meet its financial dignity with respect to its citizens?
Respected journalists, the delegate of China would like to mention that cryptocurrencies are completely abolished under the boundaries of China and they are not valid. E-currencies, as far as e-currencies are concerned, China only deals with EU1 or its own e-currency. China, due to the same volatile and intraceable nature of cryptocurrencies, has banned it and is not looking forward anytime soon to remove the ban or the abolishment. As of the regaining the loss of the people created, as you mentioned, 3 billion, the Chinese government would try its best, the Chinese finance officers would try its best to recover their loss as soon as possible. I know that the Chinese government is already working on the same. I hope I have answered your question, journalist.
All right. Do we have the delegate of Mexico next?
Yes.
Right. So, delegate, as we know that the use of cryptocurrency needs a digital infrastructure, which also sometimes lead to malicious activities like many scams and terror funding. So, in account of the speeches made by the delegate in the committee, how does the delegate's government support its citizens' needs and wants with respect to the cryptocurrency?
Actually, we in Mexico, there is cryptocurrency is not legal till now. Only some sites are legal, which are completely safe and approved by Mexican government. So no such things can happen.
Right. So I'm done. IB editor-in-chief.
Thank you so much, journalist. We'll next have Ishika of UNGA to ask questions. Ishika, you have the floor. You may go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I would firstly like to question the delegate of Denmark of UNGA. Is she there?
Yes, delegate. Sorry, yes, IP.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the delegate of Denmark, I have a question for you. Your country has been accused of racism after anti-ghetto law adopted for Ukrainians. What are the reasons of your accusations and what measures will you take to confiscate these accusations?
First of all, Delegate, IP, I would like to clear the fact that this was also cleared by our Danish MP, Kenneth Kristen Burt, who says that we can only protect those people who cannot be protected by their own countries. And that is precisely what the UN terms a refugee to. And that is the reason we didn't take the Syrian refugees last year, because the Damascus region was termed as safe, and that is why we did not allow the Syrian refugees to take refuge and protection in our country. But when you talk about Ukrainians, I would like to provide you information that nearly 190,000 Ukrainians have applied for a Danish residence permit since the conflict, and the Danish government has already approved 2,600 refugees, and they are already living a happy, protective life over there. So I don't believe there is any point of raising the question of Denmark not supporting the Ukrainians. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. My second question is for the delegate of Norway, UNGA. Is she present here?
No.
Not present in the meeting.
Okay, so my third question is for the delegate of Japan, UNGA.
Yes.
Okay, so as Japan mentioned previously, racism can't be stopped by passing laws. It is more dependent upon the people's mindset. Do you agree or disagree with the statement made by the delegate of Japan, and why? Justify.
Yeah, like obviously we agree with the statement like made by the delegate of Japan, because like as I said earlier, racism can't be just abolished by passing a law. Japan has deemed racism unconstitutional, and like that does mean that the Japanese government is supporting like anti-racist and like measures against xenophobia and racism. And like to change the mindset of the people, we have seen that the NGOs collaborating with bodies such as CERD have been more effective in curbing xenophobia and the anti-foreign sentiments in Japan, which are a serious problem. But like these sentiments have diminished and xenophobia has been reduced, and due to the contributions of various NGOs with collaboration to CERD. And so we believe that passing laws is simply not enough. The people's mindset must be changed, because that is like how racism can be eliminated.
Do I have the play to follow up?
Granted, journalist.
So don't you think that the mindset of people can be changed by laws, by passing laws?
Like, of course, it can be changed. That is why Japan has deemed racism unconstitutional. However, like just passing laws, like there are laws against, murders and all, but that does not mean they have completely stopped. Racism, can't be stopped by passing a law. It is a feeling that's developed into the mindset of the people. It's more effective if their mindset has been changed.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Right, thank you, journalist. I would like to give the floor back to our journalist, Gia, to ask her last question. Gia, are you here?
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the recognition. Delegate of Japan, I have a question for you.
Sure.
As we know, Japan lacks any law which prohibits racial, ethnic, or religious discrimination, or discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. The country also has no national human rights institution, and it's also known that non-Japanese individuals in Japan often face human rights violations, such as the Japanese citizens may not. In recent years, non-Japanese media has reported that Japanese firms frequently confiscate the passports of guest workers in Japan, particularly unskilled laborers. Critics call this practice, which is legal and encouraged in Japan, perceived and a form of human trafficking. Why are there no laws that prohibit racism, and what is your personal opinion on this topic?
As mentioned earlier, Japan has deemed racism unconstitutional. However, it's more effective to change the mindset of the people through NGOs And the people generally trust NGOs as they are often built by the people and members of the community. As for the human trafficking, Japan has taken many measures to curb it and to diminish xenophobia in its state.
Free to follow up?
Granted.
Delegate of Japan, don't you think that before changing the mindset of the people, you have to implement laws which change the behavior of the person first? And as you said, there are measures taken to avoid human trafficking, I believe. Could you name a few measures which have been taken?
Kindly unmute.
Yes, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah, like as I said earlier, that like passing laws maybe is like, yes, it can be effective. However, changing the mindset through NGOs is feels more like NGOs just feel like safer to the people than the government. And saying that like passing laws is the only solution is not correct.
There was another question which I had asked. What are the measures?
Yeah, right. Human trafficking measures. The Japanese security protocols have been changed in the recent years, and the police have been, trained to do their conduct better.
Okay. Free to follow up?
Not granted, delegate.
Okay. Thank you so much, Delegate of Japan. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
I would like to give the floor back to our journalist Ishika to ask a question to the delegate of Norway. Ishika, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. So, the delegate of Norway, why is racism more subjected towards the Asian people in your country? Is there any personal bitterness between your country and Asians?
Could you please repeat the question?
I'm sorry?
Could you please repeat your question?
Sure. My question is, why is racism more subjected towards the Asian people in your country? Is there any personal bitterness between your country and the Asians? The delegate of Norway?
I think so. The delegate is having some network issues. It's fine. Let's take it further. Let's go further.
Right. Ishika, do you have any other questions?
No.
Right, noted. All right. I would now like to invite our journalist Anshul to ask his questions. Anshul, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
My first question is to the delegate of Finland from the committee UNEP.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, in your speech, you had claimed that Finland has decided to join the NATO allied countries so that if any war happens in the future, you are on a safer side. And in another statement, you mentioned that you have enough army to retaliate to the country in a war. Then what is the agenda behind joining the NATO?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last statement? Question?
Yes. In another statement, you mentioned that you have enough army to retaliate to a country in a war. Then what is the agenda behind joining the NATO?
So we have joined the NATO due to various different reasons. But as our Prime Minister has already claimed that we have enough army to retaliate. But just to be on a safer side, and just to be on a safer side with more protection by other nations, the Republic of Finland has decided to join the NATO forces.
Thank you.
Does that answer? Yeah, please go ahead.
My next question is to the delegate of Russia from Committee UNEP.
Yes, IP.
My question is, in a statement of yours, you mentioned that you're trading oil for balancing your trade economy. To balance the negative impact of the oil usage on environment, what are the steps taken by you?
Yes. So while we are trading crude oil with other countries, just because we have an abundant reservoir of that particular resource, doesn't mean that we promote the use of that particular non-renewable resource, like I mentioned in my speech as well earlier. And Russia itself has a target of reaching at least 4.5% of the total population to renewable energy resources. It is moving, and it has taken many steps to move towards the renewable energy resources. If other countries want to trade with us at a cheaper rate of the resource which is abundant in our country, then we'll surely do that. And we shouldn't be responsible for the negative effects of that particular resource, because we are not promoting the usage of that.
Please to follow.
Granted, journalist.
But in the same speech, you had also mentioned that you are selling the oil at 30% discount. So that also attracts other countries to buy the oil at cheaper rate. So it also promotes the usage of oil, because if other countries come and buy they will obviously use it. So the more carbon emission will be there.
Yes. So the reason why we have put 30% discount is because there have been many Western sanctions on us. And now, of course, to balance our economy, we'll have to, like, if there is no country ready to trade with us, so then to balance our economy, we'll provide it at a cheaper rate. Of course, and the countries who are ready to trade with us at cheaper rates, we are providing them crude oil and other resources. But that doesn't mean we are responsible for the negative effects of it, because it's just a step to balance our economy, and nor are we promoting and telling other countries to buy it from us. To balance our economy, it's just a step that we have given discount on the crude oil.
Thank you. My next question is to the delegate of Russia only. In a statement of yours, you mentioned that there is no radioactive contamination done by Russia in the sea. But according to a reliable report, 17,000 radioactive debris are deposited on the Russian Arctic every year. What do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, so after the same speech, I had also sent a substantive chit, and it mentioned that Russia has done partnership with EPA, and with partnership with EPA, it is dealing with environmental issues which you just mentioned, like radioactive waste and hazardous waste, and it has reached many of its targets and will be reaching many of it in the future as well.
Free to follow.
Not granted, journalist.
Okay, thank you.
Right. All right. Do any of the journalists have any other questions to any of the delegates? Right, seeing none, I'll be moving on to a round of questions and answers with the executive board members. I hope they're present in the meeting.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay. I would first like to invite the executive board members of the United Nations Environmental Program to just have a little bit of chit chat and just go over what happened in the committee and just review and discuss.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yes, ma'am, you're audible.
I can just turn on my video.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kashish ma'am, for joining us. So first of all, I would like to ask you, starting off with the base, that is the agenda of the committee. It's quite a unique agenda that you often, I would say can be sidelined in a sense that a lot of important aspects of
Lavanya, I'm so sorry. I believe I have bandwidth issues. Can you come to me after at least 1 EG so that I could fix it up?
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you so much.
Right. Okay. We can come to the executive board members of the World Trade Organization. Till them are they present?
Hi, am I audible and visible?
Right. Hi. Thank you, Kaushal sir, for joining us. Okay. Again, starting off with, the World Trade Organization and the agenda, that is cryptocurrency, quite something that's quite pressing, I would say, in the modern era, and something that a lot of people are not aware about, right? So what do you think, throughout the deliberation over the 2 days, what was the most important aspect of the agenda that the delegates brought out that quite surprised the executive board and you thought was very fruitful to the discussion?
Thank you so much, Lavanya. And that's a great question, first of all. When we look at the perspective through which we wanted the delegates to research, or we wanted the delegates to present their speeches or their ideas and analysis, I think it was spot on. Irrespective of the fact that we had very young delegates, but the kind of research and the kind of ideas which they pulled out on such a sticky wicket kind of an agenda, that was great. And personally, that aspect which I love the most was the way people could analyze that the way cryptocurrency is used for nefarious activities, especially terrorism, then cyber fraud, phishing, all of that. And a lot of member states were very well able to also explain the nexus which goes behind cryptocurrency, phishing, and other kinds of frauds, and how that funds terrorism all across the world. So I think some of these aspects regarding security, cyber security, and how to counter them was one area or space of debate which I felt was very well brought out, and it is wonderful to hear people speak from that.
That's wonderful to hear. Vice Chair, ma'am, would you like to add something?
I mean, exactly what Kaushal sir said, right? Like, one thing I really loved was cryptocurrency. Something is where, it's difficult to understand for a common person, and something that we're very afraid of, something we usually don't get into it. And to have these young kids take a very, very complex concept and to break it down into something that would affect all of them. For example, as Kaushal sir mentioned, the crime aspect of all of it, or the trading that happens on the deep web. That was so surprising, and something me and Kaushal sir were like genuinely very impressed with.
That's amazing to hear. So, from both of your responses, I can see how fruitful of a discussion WTO actually had. I just have one more quick question for both of you guys. And that is, throughout the discussion in the committee, what do you think was the turning point in the committee that, simulated the debate and, ultimately put it into a good flow?
I'm so sorry, but I genuinely have a very boring answer to this. So what really happened was our committee genuinely did not have one turning point, but it was like a roller coaster. So what would happen was we'll come up with something, they'll figure out something so dynamic, they would go research about it and take it to new heights. And then they would again come down, figure out a new topic, figure out research, figure out all the resources that could go to, and then take it to another high. So it was such a learning experience for all of those, including the EBs, right? I believe in the concept that each one teach one. So we had all of these young, very, very young delegates, right? Who would come up, figure out, even if they had something that they did not understand the meaning of, they would go about it, research about it, and Kaushal sir would sometimes give them a big lecture on it, give them a history burning point. They would learn from that, and they would come up with the best solution that I was super, super proud of all of my delegates. So a committee was more like a roller coaster rather than one big turning point, in my opinion.
Right, that's great to hear. Kaushal, so would you like to add something to that?
I think to what Akansha said, she perfectly articulated it. But one perspective was, one turning point which I would consider was that when everyone got a hang of what is going to happen, especially after the first round of GSLs, there was, I think, a very visible shift, paradigm shift in the nature of debate, in the content being presented, in the logic and analysis being presented. And I think by the time the committee came to an end today afternoon, and the closing document in form of a working paper was formulated, I think everyone understood the agenda way better than even both of us. So I think combined with that, hunger to know things and that passion and energy which comes with that age, I think everyone was very well able to balance that through the speeches they gave, the debate which they did, and I think that is near about perfect.
That's amazing to hear, especially since cryptocurrency is not something that a lot of people are aware about. So, hearing that the delegates were able to bring out such unique aspects of the agenda and, fruitfully debate upon them is good to hear. So, congratulations on such a successful debate. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, can we have the executive board members of UNEP if they're available now?
Yeah, I hope I'm audible, but at any point, if I'm not, let me know.
Right. Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Right, Kashish, ma'am. Again, starting off with the agenda of the committee, right? So great agenda. Kudos to the executive board for framing such, comprehensive agenda. And, falling onto the comprehensive aspect of it, when you choose such a diverse agenda, it's, quite difficult to point out what aspect of it would the delegates, particularly emphasize upon. Right. So, and there's a lot of aspects of it that are, omnipresent yet unaddressed. So, what was that one aspect of the agenda that you feel like would not come up in the committee, but the delegates, brought it up and then did a very good debate on it?
So firstly, thank you for the question and also complimenting us for the agenda. I'll start with telling you why we kept this agenda. Because obviously it's very pressing, very relevant. Honestly speaking, when it comes to writing on a piece of paper, save environment, everybody is at top. But when it actually comes to knowing what we can do to save the environment, apart from the very basic steps, nobody is, really aware. Everybody goes clueless. So that is why we kept this agenda. And honestly speaking, this particular agenda definitely has a lot of, relevant topics within this umbrella, which are very hard for students of age 14, 15 to understand. So that was the reason why I believe in this one concept that if I am chairing a committee, I'm teaching something to my delegates, then I teach them in this manner that they are able to explain it to somebody who is illiterate or even as young as 5 years old. And that was done A, in verbally in the committee, B, our background guide was somewhere around 65 pages. So we made sure that, we explain everything in a easy language so that these people understand, right? Instead of using fancy vocabulary, now talking about what in the committee. See, the committee talked about green transition. Now, this is very common. I mean, this is very expected. But the points which they gave within green transition, the alternatives that they gave was something that I was not expecting from this committee, honestly. So that is one of the highest marked, topic in my mark sheet as so far. So that was one thing that I pretty much liked about my committee, how they, gave very, very unique points, and they actually searched for alternatives, of different levels, right? So that was the best part.
That's amazing to hear that the committee was full of surprises. Just a quick follow-up to that, since environment is so diverse, and I feel like with such diverse topics, with even like gender equality or racism, there's like such, I would say, commonly used words that people essentially don't mean what those words actually mean, right? So, what do you think was like a unique or an eccentric way in which environment was defined in the committee?
Now, in multiple UN committees that I've attended, what I've seen is that people, instead of targeting what is around us, they go to a level reaching to which actually has a lot of steps. So, environment, which was defined in the committee, was in a manner that they firstly initially based the basics or the, what I should say, their first step was to start with the environment and then immediate surroundings. And then they leveled up in the committee. And that is how, basically now when we talk about environment, they started from defining it in a very basic way, like our NCRTs of grade 3, grade 4. And then they reached up to the level like actually UNEP, like exactly like the UNEP documents which are doing so far. So they actually modified this particular definition with respect to level of the debate they had in the committee. So this is something that again I personally liked a lot.
Right, that's amazing to hear how the delegates, tackled the agenda step by step. And again, amazing, and kudos to the EB members for conducting such a great committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Also, kudos to the press members. The press conference was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, lastly, I would like to invite the executive board members of the United Nations General Assembly.
Am I audible and visible? Could someone please confirm?
Yes, sir, you're visible and audible.
First of all,
Right. Thank you for having coming here, sir. Okay, again, I would just like to start off with the agenda because, again, when I was preparing these questions, the first thing that struck me for all of the committees was the agenda. So, the committee essentially, talked about racism and xenophobia. And I feel like when you talk about racism is just not limited to its direct impacts. I feel like racism seeps into a lot of other, I would say social phenomenon, like maybe gender inequality or even environmental preservation, climate change. Racism, somehow comes in each and every place. So how do you think the committee tackled that aspect of it, like how diverse and widespread racism is?
yeah, first of all, thank you for the question. The question was pretty amazing. Now going about what I would like to see is when I came to the committee, day one, when I started with the committee, I had a belief that there might be a situation that I'll have to provide a direction to the committee. But no, kudos to the delegates who were present in the committee. They provided a direction. Like for yesterday as well, we had approximately 3 moderated caucuses. Where one, they completely discussed upon the consequences. One, they discussed upon the reasons, like how things are happening in today's world. Like one of the moderated caucuses, what I remember was role of media. Now obviously today we live in a world of electronic media that stands to be social media or the electronic mails we get, everything. So in that particular course they discuss about things. Now that was something very new, going of the fact. Now they also discuss that what could be the consequences if we don't solve these problems at the very moment. Like for example, if we are not able to solve racism, racial discrimination or xenophobic attitudes, what gonna be the sense of attitude people might have and what might turn them into, what might be the process. And then the very basic they wanted to discuss upon was that they discussed upon the education, that how education can act as a factor in removing these sorts of intolerances. So this has been a kudos to the committee providing the direction. Very well said. And also today, when they were discussing about the solutions, I have done a couple of MUNs, and usually what I have seen when it comes to the MUNs and when it comes to the solutions, people try to reiterate or people try to recommend the existing recommendations or what I'll say, the recommendations which have been already provided by the UN or the other agencies. But here the committee, they provided basic level recommendations. Like even one of the recommendations I remember of one of the delegates was that when it comes to sports events, we should establish an organization which will working on this, like curbing racism and racial discrimination. Now that stands to be a very unique point for the committee of first timers at the end of the day. That was something which I was impressed by. And yes, also kudos to the fact and quoting upon the fact that I guess it is one of my first committees. It is among my very few committees where a DR was initiated and it had passed with a complete majority. So yeah, delegates had a point. Delegates didn't believe the fact, like obviously in some MUNs which I've attended, they have a feel of competition that we'll compete amongst ourselves, we'll have multiple, and agenda like xenophobia, racism and racial discrimination does not require multiple DRs or multiple working people. But in that particular direction, the committee worked all together and they felt that yes, we'll be having only one DR. That's by my side.
Right. That's honestly so good to hear. Like, just from hearing you right now, I was, able to interpret the agenda in so many ways that I wasn't able to before. And, that just goes to show how, when young minds come together, it can do wonders. And I guess that's something that your committee achieved very well. So kudos to you. And thank you so much for answering all of the press's questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, for this, we come to the end of the press conference. Thank you to the Secretariat, the Executive Board members, and the delegates for cooperating. Devashri, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I can see the excitement and thrill raging through all the delegates who are eagerly waiting to know the results. I now call the chair and the vice chair of UNGA to say a few words and declare the results of special mention and verbal mention of their committee.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. So coming upon the committee, as I recently mentioned in the press conference as well, that it was a committee full of young minds and the young minds who are willing to learn. Going by my committee, had a strength of around 15 to 16 delegates, max 18 delegates who were present. Out of those, 14 delegates had participated. So that was a huge achievement for our side. And me and Haragya was my vice chair, though he acted as a co-chair for me in the committee. A big kudos to him as well. Thank you so much for being a part of the executive board. Now going to that point, what I had a notion that there might be some point that I might have to need to provide a direction to the committee, but that wasn't the scenario. What had happened was the committee was in the direction on their own. So this is something which has been a very good on the committee's part. Now, Haragya, you can continue and you can go announce with the awards, the special mention and the verbal mention.
Thanks, sir.
Have the meeting. Haragya, could you please confirm if you're there in the meeting?
Yeah, I'm there. Actually, I was on mute. Sorry. Okay, so I'll start before asking the 3 golden words which I've been hearing from since 2 years. I'm audible, guys. Okay. I'm audible. Can anyone tell me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my name is Raghav Singh and I was serving as the Vice Chairperson for the United Nations General Assembly, SOCHUM, and the agenda, coming upon to the agenda of my committee, it has been really well explained by my delegates as well as by my chairperson itself. Coming to the committee and the delegates, how they performed, to be honest, this was the only event where I have seen literally delegates discussing 4 mods. Coming after that on day 2, this formatting, editing, and then tabling the working paper as well as the DR itself. So this is a thing which I was really glad at end of the day. Now, before I declare the awards, I would like to mention only one statement. It is very common, I know. It's again not of my own creation. The actual definition of awards, a way of analyzing the recent developments, right? I know it has been quoted by different people in different other unions. Still, I personally have taken into consideration. I would recommend that every delegate should take this into consideration, right? Okay, coming to the awards, we have 1 verbal mention, 1 special mention, 1 high commendation, and 1 best delegate. The verbal mention goes to the delegate of French Republic. Now, this delegate was really good, good in terms of the content and research. And yeah, certain parameters we'll discuss in the feedback. And kudos to delegate of France. Coming to the special mention we have is delegate of China. Now, the delegate, you were also amazing. There were certain parameters which made you up, and there were certain parameters which made you reach this particular position. Kudos to both the delegates. Now I present the floor to my my chairperson, Shivam sir.
Thank you, sir. I now call the chair and the vice chair of WTO to say a few words and declare the results of special mention and verbal mention of their committee.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
I believe we do not have Kaushal sir here with us, so I'll announce the word and giving analysis of the committee. I think we've already said enough about the committee and the delegates. We had one of the youngest delegates, and we're super, super proud of the fact that they were able to break down such a complex issue and such an issue where there's so much, ambiguous things. We do not know where the, countries are going to go for, where the world is going to decide for them. They became the young leaders that they are, and they decided for the world. Now, coming straight to the word, verbal mention goes to Delegate of Japan. Delegate of Japan was one of the youngest delegate we had in the committee and one of the most enthusiastic one as well. He would always raise his hand, whatever the issue would, raise motions as well as give speeches. Now, special mention goes to, now it was very difficult to announce the word, I might mention. Everyone was so amazing. But coming to the word, special mention goes to two delegates actually. We just couldn't decide between one. It goes to Delegate of France and Delegate of Republic of Korea. Congratulations, delegates.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to invite the chair of UNEP to announce the results of special mention and verbal mention of their committee, along with say a few words.
Right. Am I audible? If you could confirm.
Yes, you are audible.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I just talked a bit about my committee like the rest of the TB members. So, hi, I am Kashyap Mudir. I was serving in capacity of chairperson as full chair for the committee because our vice chair sir had some emergency, so he couldn't join us in that 2 days journey. Talking about my committee, we had a lot of young people as all the committees had. And best part about it is that my committee, I can proudly boast about that, has attained 100% participation. All the delegates who were present in the committee participated in almost, I tell you, almost 80 to 90% of delegates participated in everything. And rest of the delegates also participated, but they did not participate in one or two things. So overall, we had 100% participation in the committee, which I personally am, really proud of. Talking about my committee, honestly speaking, there are committees wherein there is a huge gap between the delegates. So there are some delegates who are too good. There are some delegates who are not performing at all. But in my committee, everybody was doing so well that I love the way how they manage themselves. Also, on day when there was a lot of scoldings that is now available on YouTube as well. So I told them, don't do this, do that, do this. And honestly speaking, once I used to give them time, you take up this break and come to me after this break. After that, I could see them, with an improved level, honestly. So that is the best part, that they were improving throughout the committee. Now, if you look at the first speech that one of my delegates gave to the last performance that they did in the committee, there's a huge difference. And that is what I am happiest about. So our agenda was very relevant. People were very invested in the debate. And that is what I, loved about it. So now talking of the awards, I'll just quickly announce the verbal mention and the special mention. But before I do that, I'll just say one thing. I often tell it to my delegates, to do something great in life, you should always do something at first. Right. So this I also mentioned in my committee. So this is the first step that you've taken towards something. Do not stop here, even if you do not take up any award today. Because at the end of the day, this is the process, from which you actually lead to the path of excellence. So yeah. Now talking of verbal mention, special mention, we have one verbal mention and two special mention in the committee. Verbal mention goes to Delegate of Finland. Can we all have a virtual round of applause for virtual reactions, really? So Finland, great job done. Really proud of you. Next, we talk of special mention. I really appreciate ma'am, playing the sound and motivating all of us. Special mention goes to two delegates to the committee, that is Germany and Israel. Congratulations, delegates. Great job. Thank you. We have a round of applause. Over to you. Thank you. Last thing, thank you to Push and all the teachers involved in it. They were, available at every moment. I contacted them. I know I've called them multiple times. This has happened, and they were actually answering my every query without getting irritated. And honestly speaking, a great event put up. So congratulations to entire, school faculty and students and everybody who's involved. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now I request Abira ma'am to announce the high commendation for all the committees and to say a few words.
Thank you, Advait and Devashri. You both are firstly doing a good job. So a round of applause to you. I'll start with my first usual question online. Am I visible and audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So it's an honor to be here because it's a program for children. And it amazes me to see the kind of introspection that you've been doing. Honestly speaking, I've been able to visit the committees today in the discussion. And you went in from blockchain to cryptocurrency, some things that our generations never heard of, and some things that we are very, very fond of, that is human rights and environment. What amazed me was that you all did your research, and that is what is most important. So can a couple of you either tell me by unmuting yourselves, or if you can put it in chat. I'm a teacher, I have to ask questions. It's a DNA problem. As to why did you participate in this model UN, or what was your greatest takeaway? I'll continue in the meanwhile, but if any of you could just tell me what was the one single greatest takeaway that you have out of an MUN? Anyone who can, you can just unmute yourself and go. Anyone?
I guess one of the most biggest takeaways from this MUN has been that I got a lot of wider view of all the countries in the world, and a very deep view of all the countries now. So
thank you, Russian delegate. So it gladdens me, my heart to hear that, because I think the most important thing that you have to remember in a world that is sadly increasingly becoming intolerant is that there can be no learning without cooperation. So we all know UN is basically trying to bring together an entire different multicultural dimension into getting down and sitting and discussing. But in a world which is now propagating my way or the highway, it is very, very important that you are, you understand that people have difference of opinions, and you still have to listen respectfully, even if they differ, and absolutely you think that what they're talking doesn't make sense to you, but you still have to be respectful. So what I request all of you, like I just heard one of your seniors say that you don't let this end here. You take it away with you. And the few things that I want you to take away is, of course, one was that you learned how to do, research, you learned how to use a formal demeanor, a formal language. Despite it being your friends, most of you maintain that formal decorum of being UN delegates. Three things that I want you to take away from an MUN as a teacher, as a guest here today, is the importance of questioning. You have to question. You have to question everything around you. And you have to find your own logic about explaining certain things, about cooperative learning, like I said. And you have to remember that every human being has human rights. And you have to respect them, whether or not you like them, whether or not you agree with them. However, the world is becoming more and more intolerant. In this tolerance, we have to find, your generation has to find respect for differences. So I hope that these three takeaways are your most important, besides the fact that you get a very deep insight into the political working of the country. I know you'll have had 2 long days, but before I reach to the declaring the prizes for today, being a teacher, I know how much of hard work must have gone into training you all and making sure things have been online and smooth. So hats off to all those educators who were involved in this, all those learners who were involved in this. Incredible job. So thank you, and a big round of applause. I don't have the applause sound, but thank you. Right. So that goes out to all of you who put in your heart and soul into making this event what it was. And it was really very, very wonderful to be here. Now we come to the prizes, which is not always a good thing to do, because it means that I break a few hearts and I make a few of them happier than the others. But then I'm sure the ones who've got it have well earned it, and the ones who haven't are just an inch away, and the next time they'll do it. So I start with the High Commendation for United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. It goes out to the delegate of Japan. Congratulations. I could hear your very emphatic discussions today. The High Commendation for WTO goes out to the Delegate of People's Republic of China. Congratulations. And the High Commendation for UNEP goes out to the Delegate of Denmark. So congratulations, children, wonderfully done. And congratulations to everyone who was here today. I don't think that it's a very easy job doing it online, especially because you don't have your teachers around you to nudge you and your friends to give you that level of confidence. But wonderfully done. And special thank you to Rima ma'am for giving me this opportunity and remembering to call me for this because MUNs are really, really very close to my heart. So have a good evening, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now call upon Devendra sir to declare the result for the best delegate for all the committees as well as the best IP and to say a few words.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the wonderful 2 days that we've had. Wouldn't be out of place, actually, to begin by thanking all those people who've been working behind the scenes to put this whole program together. Names, faces, contributions, they've just been working. So thank you to all the teachers also who've guided the students. And I think you've done yourself a fair share of credit to actually have come to the stage where, like Modi says, I almost feel what the chappan inchi ka chest, So I think it's wonderful to have children who can represent you or, come onto a platform where you can express yourself with such clarity and conviction. Although, for instance, who would imagine that we would put ourselves in Chinese shoes and be able to express yourself and do so much of decent research that you can actually make out this person is actually speaking the Chinese voice. So I think the research is tremendous, and everybody who went behind this, thank you so much. Children, well done. Brilliant job, and I can't put it better. I think Abira ma'am has very aptly said there are more takeaways than anything, and don't let the journey stop here. I think this is just the beginning, and don't let that the whiff blow away the light of the candle, because I think you've got the basic spirit. I think you need to take it on. This is a good way forward. Thank you also to Cushion Company, although for stepping back in and helping us out with things. So without much ado, I'll declare the prizes as has been decided by whoever has decided. Again, as Abira ma'am said, this is the most unfortunate part of any competitive exam, to actually declare a result. This is not to say that the others haven't done well. But then when you're in a competition, there has to be a winner. So there it is. The best delegate of the UNGA goes to the delegate of the Kingdom of Denmark. Congratulations. Best delegate of WTO goes to the delegate of Egypt. And the best delegate of UNEP goes to the delegate of the Russian Federation. And I think Zelensky is going to shoot me, because we are actually saying, well done, Putin. But anyway, that's what it is. And the best international press member goes to Tanmay Srivastava. Well done, all of you. And thank you, everybody. The chair, the secretary, and Rima ma'am, everybody, and Abira ma'am, especially for having taken your time out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well done. So over to you, Devashri.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations to all the delegates who have won.
The Annamarcharya Kirtanam describes goddess Mahalakshmi in different forms such as Jayalakshmi, Varalakshmi, Veeralakshmi. In the praise of goddesses Jayalakshmi, Varalakshmi, and Veeralakshmi, the goddess who grants us victory, boons, and courage, not just to win over a battle outside, but to win over the chaos, which is very much required in today's world. So, we present before you a choreography that will leave you totally mesmerized. Please do sit back and enjoy this enthralling performance by Gargi and group.
పదియారు వన్నెలతో బంగారు పతిమా పదియారు వన్నెలతో బంగారు పతిమా చదరని వేదముల చిగురుబోడి పదియారు వన్నెలతో బంగారు పతిమా చదరని వేదముల చిగురుబోడి ఎదుట శ్రీ వెంకటేశు హరి ఎదుట శ్రీ వెంకటేశు ఇల్లాలవై నీవు ఎదుట శ్రీ వెంకటేశు ఇల్లాలవై నీవు నిధులా నిలిపే తల్లి నీవారమమ్మా నిధులా నిలిపే తల్లి నీవారమమ్మా అమ్మా జయలక్ష్మి వరలక్ష్మి సంగ్రామ వీరలక్ష్మి ప్రియురాలవై హరికి బెరసిదివమ్మా అమ్మా జయలక్ష్మి వరలక్ష్మి సంగ్రామ వీరలక్ష్మి సంగ్రామ వీరలక్ష్మి సంగ్రామ వీరలక్ష్మి
Surely that was a breathtaking performance. I now call upon Ms. Dhanna and Master Khush Bhattacharya to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Devashri. As all good things come to an end, so is the virtual PPSA MUN. On behalf of Pawar Public School, Hadapsar, we take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this conference. At the outset, we would like to thank our Honorable Principal, Mr. Devendra Kumar, and Ms. Rima Bhattacharya, our headmistress, section, for their unceasing support and guidance. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the EB members and the IP head for their constructive suggestions and effective handling of the proceedings of the committee. We appreciate you for boosting the confidence of the delegates. We fall short of words to thank Master Kush Bhattacharya, who was with us right from the inception and ensuring the smooth functioning of the PPSAMUN.
I would like to extend my gratitude to Ms. Dhanalakshmi Sutar and Ms. Naomi Solanki for being there with the students as a source of inspiration and empowering them to pull in their ideas. I also want to thank the people who worked behind the scenes to execute this event and make it successful. We would like to extend our gratitude to all the viewers for the overwhelming response on our live streaming platform. I do hope and believe you must have enjoyed each moment of the proceedings to the fullest. Last but not the least, a big thank you to each one of you who made this virtual PPS annual memorable for all of us.
Thank you, Kush. All the delegates will receive their e-certificates within 2 weeks. There are special appreciation certificates for the executive board and the international press members. I would now request Abira ma'am to declare the PPSAMUN closed.
Thank you, Devashri.
Welcome, ma'am.
Can we, if we don't say close, can we just continue another day? Yeah, I'm sure you all will kill me. So would your teachers. So I declare this amazing event closed today.
We have a feedback.
Okay, so all the students are requested to kindly fill up the feedback form which has been given in the chat box.
You may fill in the feedback form which has been put in the chat box and only then you may leave. Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, sir,
for joining us today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and stay safe, stay healthy.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Yes, sir, definitely. Delegates, you are requested to kindly fill in the feedback